Hey guys, so I got a recommendation from a viewer saying that I should watch the Majority Report on 2016 presidential candidate Darryl Perry. He ran against Gary Johnson in the Libertarian Party ticket, and he is probably the craziest libertarian you'll ever see. Basically, he doesn't want the DMV to exist. He doesn't want driver's licenses. He doesn't thinks all drugs should be illegal. He's about the purest form of a libertarian you can find. And Sam Seder obviously is a pretty famous journalist. He has the show that he's always on. He has a million subs on YouTube, and this should be very interesting how Sam treats Darryl Perry. He's always pretty funny when it comes to libertarians. But Darryl Perry, I've heard of him before, but I haven't seen this interview, so I guess we'll see what's in store for us.
As long as I'm not violating the rights of another person, I should be able to, claim the free state of Darryl.
Okay, but aren't you that property that you're living on, that land? Is that really yours? How did you get that property?
So what Sam's trying to insinuate is that it is impossible to own land without a deed from the government, and that is true. Your land is solely based on the government or the state that you're in. So what's going on in a lot of places is that you actually lose your property based on what government regime's in power. So if you know about South Africa, a lot of the white farmers in South Africa are actually losing their land because the government is taking it back and claiming that it's for reparations for apartheid. But this is actually a very interesting concept because you own the property, but technically the government has the right to take that land, or if you don't pay taxes on it, to withhold that land. So this is actually a very interesting issue because I am a strong believer that you should be able to own land without the government's approval, and the government should have no right to take your land.
Well, based on the current paradigm, nobody can really own land because try not paying your local property taxes. After 3 years, some local government will come, kick you off of your land, and sell the land to the highest bidder. So currently, no one can own property.
Okay, so you have no property here.
And that's a great point. Like in a lot of places, it's not even just the local property taxes. It's actually the HOA. So your homeowners association, they could put draconian rules for how your house is meant to be maintained, how everything looks. There's actually this one guy who basically didn't mow his lawn for a year, and the HOA actually took his house from him. And instead of just mowing the lawn for him or just hiring someone to do it, they took the house. So some of these HOAs have ridiculous amounts of power, and what's even worse is that if you don't pay your local property tax, they can take your property. And I'm of the belief that you shouldn't have to pay property taxes unless you have someone in the public schools. And I'm also a believer that there are better ways to pay for public education than property tax, because property tax basically it incentivizes wealthier neighborhoods to get better schools just because their property value is more, and therefore they get more taxes for the public schools. And there could be a more equal system, but sorry I'm stopping so much in the first minute.
So I don't understand, how would you possibly secede?
Well, right now you're not allowed to. Right now, if you go buy a piece of land from someone and you say, I don't want to be part of the town, I don't want to benefit in any way from any of the supposed services that the town provides, I'm not going to send you any money, I'm not going to use your schools, I'm not going to use your fire department, I just want to live on my land and be completely self-sufficient.
And that's actually a good point. And even though the government is all around us, even if you use the roads, even if you have publicly subsidized water through the tap, if you have a piece of land that you can remain self-sufficient on, why can you not just live off of it and not take any of the government's amenities? That seems like a decent point, and I kind of like that point, that if you are able to and you want to live out in the middle of the woods, you want to be self-sufficient, and you don't want to take any of the government's amenities, you should theoretically be able to, at least in my opinion.
And not pay your taxes. After 3 years, the town would come, kick you off of your property, and seize your land.
Yeah. How would you know it's your land? How would you prove that it's your land?
Well, in theory, you would have a property deed, because that's what happens when you buy property.
Who would issue
But property deeds are issued by the government.
the
Is
property deed?
You get a deed.
Yep.
Well, right now there are governments that issue those things. And what I'm saying is we're talking about the current paradigm of how could you own land. And there are things right now that exist. When you go buy land, you get a deed for the land.
Right.
If you're talking about what would happen in a free society, then there would be competing agencies probably that would issue such deeds.
Okay, this is where I have an issue, because what happens when one agency says John owns the land and another agency says Jay owns the land? Which agency do you listen to? Is it just which agency has the most guns? I think you have to have a little bit of government there issuing things like property deeds, and you need a court system who could actually settle this stuff. This is where Darryl Perry and I, because I consider myself a libertarian, Darryl Perry and I go our separate ways, because I think we need a little bit of government, not to this extent, but this is like private companies just have full reign over all of this, and I'm sure Sam is just going to destroy him for this point.
Which one would
You're
be
asking me to centrally
Yep.
plan liberty, and that's not what I'm interested in.
What the fuck does centrally planning liberty mean?
I'm interested in,
Wait a
Sam,
sec, I want to
is
hear about
people
that other
having the
paradigm.
right. Hold on, Sam. Hold on. Let me finish my thought, and if you keep trying to piss me off, I will disconnect from the call. So you're asking me to centrally plan liberty. I'm not interested in centrally planning liberty. I'm interested
He's trying not to just laugh at this guy. He blew up just now. This is so funny.
in promoting the idea of human freedom.
Okay, so wait a second. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. I'm just trying to figure
No, I
out.
think you absolutely did mean to upset me.
No,
I think you absolutely do want to try to push me into a corner to where you can say, see, you don't have the answers of how freedom works. Damn it, Sam. Nobody has all the answers on how freedom works. That's why freedom is so important. Because
Why is he getting so angry? Like, this guy is obviously, Sam Seder is a Democrat. He's obviously going to disagree with you. You'd think that if you're talking about property rights, you would have some reasonable explanations for this. But that's a good point. Who the hell is going to regulate these agencies that are going to be at odds with each other all the time? And you could theoretically have infinite people claiming property. Just think about how many just rural land disputes would go on for this. Nevertheless, cities, it's so hard when you get in rural. I live in North Carolina, so when you get outside of our city lines, there's no like street signs in some places. How are you going to determine who owns property and who doesn't when you have these agencies that can just claim whatever they want? But I'm centrally planning liberty, apparently.
people should have the right to make decisions that other people might not agree with. That's why I support freedom. That's why I love freedom.
Well, Darryl,
Because I'm smart enough to know that I don't know how to run your life.
well, Darryl, I'm not.
I don't
asking
know
you,
how to
I'm not
run your
asking you
life.
how you're going to run my life. I'm sorry. Listen, I don't mean to get you.
You're
this upset.
asking me how everything
I'm just asking
will
how
work in a
people
free
will know.
society.
I'm just asking, like a simple thing, like how do you establish property rights in this other paradigm, this other freedom paradigm that you're talking about? You have competing agencies that are going to offer deeds, and I'm just curious as to how do we determine which one is going to be the deed that is actually the one that is recognized. I mean, how do we establish these things that you're talking about?
You need a government. That's the way to do it. You can't just have, and even if so, imagine if they had a monopolistic deed registry and they could basically just issue whatever deeds they wanted. There would be so much corruption that would go on with that, and theoretically that company could just issue it to whomever they want. So even if you own the land, in reality they could issue a deed and that will just nullify every other deed put out there.
Well, let me ask you this question, Sam. If you have 5 people that issue deeds to 5 different agencies, or rather 5 different agencies that try to say different people own the land, there would be some kind of coming together to try to figure out exactly who the owner is. If you
What if there's like two registries Like there's 5 in this theoretical scenario, and what if 3 of them say that Oscar owns this land and the other 2 say Isaac owns that land? How the hell are they going to sort that out? Because they're just going to be at odds with each other. Do you get a 6th one involved? And what happens if they try to plan with Isaac? This makes no sense. This is an idiotic idea, and I'm sorry that I can't be this libertarian, but like, this is just, you need some sort of structure when it comes to property.
You've got, let's say, 4 people recognize Sam owns this property and one says Darryl owns this property.
Right.
Well, nobody's really going to wind up trusting the one that goes against the grain unless there's, some provability of corruption going on. But
well, who would be the arbiter of this? Who would be the arbiter of this? See, here's my problem: is that I know. Now, Darryl, you gotta let me finish now, okay? This is
I don't know who the arbiter would be. I don't know what size font they would use on the paper. I don't know.
Well, I think that's a different. That's a different.
The signature would
that's
be.
A different.
I don't know
that's
what
a different
time
issue.
the sun will set on June 31st. Of 2102.
You can look that up.
I don't
online.
know these questions.
But Darryl, listen to me. Listen, you got to let me
I
finish.
love how nonchalantly he's just like, you can look that up online, which is true, you can.
Because this is my point: is that I know one of the things you're talking about.
You're wanting me to centrally plan liberty, and that's not what I'm interested in.
Well,
Sam.
I understand you're not interested in that, but you're trying to make a pitch to America that libertarianism is better.
I'm making a pitch that you're smart enough to be able to decide for yourself, and you don't have a right to force your opinions on other people.
First of all...
Well, that's part of a democracy, Darryl. There are going to be opinions you don't agree with. And Sam obviously has an opinion you don't agree with, but it's not centrally planned. I don't even know what that means. Like, centrally planning liberty, you mean having an organization that says that you own land? That doesn't seem like centrally planning. If anything, it seems like it's protecting your liberty because you're not going to be constantly at war with local families over who owns your backyard.
I have an absolute right to forcefully give my opinion.
People to do what you
want
to do.
Darryl, I'm just asking.
You are a madman, Sam, if you think that you have a legitimate right to force people to do what you want them to do.
I didn't say that. You talked about my opinion.
You did.
Now, Darryl,
let me make a statement. Otherwise, I will disconnect.
Okay.
I said you do not have a right to force people to do what you want them to do, and you said yes, I do.
No,
so you said that you have a right to force people to do what you want them to do.
My opinion, force my opinion on people. But Darryl, look.
That's different than forcing.
Don't change
the threat
Darryl, please.
You will go to jail unless you do.
Listen, I understand that you're uncomfortable with the scenario that I'm presenting, but this is the reason why I'm using this illustration. Darryl, now it's my.
Oh my lord. Okay, so it's tyrannical to ask these basic questions. Apparently, that's crazy. He's just asking a simple question, and Darryl Perry doesn't know how to answer. Keep in mind, this man ran for president. And I'm pretty sure he got like 4th or 5th in the Libertarian debate, meaning that he was a couple delegates away from actually being on the ballot in 50 states across America. Just keep that in mind. This is unfortunately one of the reasons why the Libertarian Party will never be taken seriously as a normal party, and it saddens me because I feel like I align a lot with the Libertarian Party, and it would be great if we had a third option. And frankly, same thing with the Green Party. I don't agree with like any of the Green Party's ideals, but I would love for them to actually be able to win races and affect them. But guys like Darryl Perry give the Libertarian Party a bad name, unfortunately.
My turn to threaten you that I'm going to have to mute you if you won't let me at least finish my thought. Now, come on.
Go ahead, finish your thought, and quit trying to force me to centrally plan liberty.
Okay, well, I'm not sure I know what that means, but my point is this, is that libertarians, if I'm not mistaken, do not like the fact that a government has a monopoly of force. And I am suggesting that in this case of a piece of property where we don't know who it belongs to, There are 3 agencies that say it's mine. There's 1 agency that says it's yours. You believe that your agency is the most legit agency and that my 3 agencies are corrupt. I believe I've got 3 agencies. 3 is more than 1. Well, you say, look, I'm going to go find 2 other agencies that say that this property belongs to me. And then the question becomes, how do we resolve this? And you're saying,
there you go. You can't just have a group consensus. You can always find other agencies, and there's no mechanism, aka a government, which will basically legitimize that one agency, and that's what you need. You need one agency to make this a legit transaction instead of a bunch of agencies, which frankly could be corrupt, and you don't know that. Then you just need the one legit agency. You don't need multiple agencies. So I get the issue with a monopoly of force. That sucks. But at the same time, it's better than the alternative of having infinite monopolies and there's no actual property rights because of it.
like, well, it's just going to work out. And I'm saying that at the end of the day, when we actually walk through this in reality, even if it's your paradigm,
you're saying
your
that
reality,
freedom doesn't work.
I'm saying that's right.
You're saying freedom doesn't
I'm
work.
saying that's correct. That
You're
we're going
saying
to need an authority that's going to adjudicate this. And that authority ultimately is going to have a monopoly of power. And the only way that we're going to function and not end up in a fight that is going to determine this is if we all...
That's a good point. If you don't have someone who has the monopoly of force, then what's going to happen is you're going to have local disputes over these properties, either by the issuer of deeds or the property owners themselves. So it's going to be basically like a bunch of small wars across the United States if this system were to take place.
All agree mutually, my agencies, your agencies, my people, your people, we all agree to submit to a authority that has a monopoly of power. Now, the best case scenario is that we make sure that this authority is at least as representative of us as possible. That's what I'm suggesting.
Let me ask this question, Sam.
Yes.
What happens if I don't pay taxes to your authority?
Oh.
To our authority?
What happens? You're the one saying that we need a group.
Well, if you don't pay taxes in our system, unfortunately, you go to jail, which I think is a little bit ridiculous. But there's frankly too many taxes in the United States, and that's my big issue with it. I don't think many of the taxes that exist today should exist, like income tax, property taxes. I think we should just have one federal consumption tax or a flat tax. But apparently having any taxes at all, to Darryl Perry, is too many taxes.
That has legitimate use on the force of violence to force people to do what is best. And I'm saying, what should happen to me if I refuse to pay for your agency that is going to force people to do what you believe is best?
So in other words,
if I decide I don't like your agency killing people in the Middle East, I will not fund that. What should happen?
Why would his agency be killing people in the Middle East? That's another excellent point, though. I'm a very big proponent of this really dumb idea that I know is dumb, but I like how it sounds anyway. I believe that when you're paying your taxes, you should allocate the money to whatever you want. Meaning, I should be able to say, I want 15% of my taxes to go towards the military. I want 50% of it to go towards education. I want 10% of it to go towards FEMA. You know what I mean? So what would happen is that these government agencies would be funded directly by the people. So people would essentially be responsible for picking which agencies are most responsible. So if we believe that something's underfunded, well, us as Americans can choose instead of the politicians on what we want to fund. So I think that's a very good idea, but it's also a very impractical idea because then these government agencies are going to be literally competing against each other, and they're going to have lobbyists towards the American people. There's going to be attack ads and everything like that. But I've always been a strong proponent of, I don't want to pay for a lot of the stuff the government funds, so why can't I just pick where my money goes? It sounds great in theory, very impractical though.
Happened to me.
Well, I mean, I think if you don't pay your taxes to our government, they'll ultimately put you in jail.
Well, yeah, that's what will
No,
happen.
I'm asking you, Sam, what do you think should happen? Not what does happen, because we know what does happen. What do you think? I want you to say it. I want you to say that I belong in jail because I don't pay taxes.
Tell me you don't pay taxes without telling me you don't pay taxes. IRS, get on Darryl Perry right now. Time for a huge audit.
If you
Say it,
don't pay
Sam.
taxes to the U.S. government, ultimately, I think you belong in jail.
Thank you for saying that, Sam. You're a horrible, despicable person. Thank you for having me on your show.
Darryl?
I think he just hung up. I don't think he can't answer questions. He gets mad if you press against him anyway. He's just like the gender people who get angry if you press back a little bit. This is the issue with a lot of libertarians. They get angry if you poke holes in their thesis, and I'll admit it. There's a lot of holes in my thesis as well. I have some pretty dumb beliefs, but that could easily be picked apart. But at least I'll try to combat them.
Darryl? All of a sudden, I look like a mental health heavyweight. Well,
Walter Block looks like the Dalai Lama.
well, I thought he was talking hypothetically. I don't think that I would necessarily put him in jail right now. But yeah, I think if you don't pay your taxes that are due, yeah, I mean, I think if it's,
I think Daryl's got done for this episode, so I don't really care about Sam Seder's political opinions. He's made them explicitly clear. But here we go. This is Sam Seder and Darryl Perry's debate on his show, and it was interesting to say the least. Remember to like and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching the channel. And if you can, I've noticed like 90% of my viewers are not subscribed. I would love it if you could do it. I want to make sure that I have a page where we can vote on our next videos. So I'm going to put stuff on the community page starting pretty soon as I get to the proper numbers. But thank y'all and have a good day.